Yo, everybody. We are the NFL Expert. I am Mark D, joined as always by Wayne G. How you doing today, Wayne?
I'm doing pretty awesome. And I hear that you're on location.
I am on location at Starbucks. My Wi-Fi is being wonky again, but I'm here and we're going to do this thing.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so if you like what you hear tonight, give us a follow. We are the NFL Experts Pod, plural, on all social media platforms, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. Also, feel free to send us a question at our email. We'll answer, interact live on the show. That's NFLExpertsPod@gmail.com. Today, we have a special guest. He is a writer of DenverSports.com. He is a host of the Orange and Blue podcast. He's a contributor to FootballGuys.com. He's the co-owner and writer of Smoke & Gun Comics. My guy, Cecil Lammey. What's up, Cecil?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's time to talk about the NFL draft because we are right here. It's the most insane time, but it's my least favorite part of my favorite time of year, if that makes sense, because all the stuff is done. I'm sick of the gossip. I'm sick of the rumors. I got to know who these picks are, and we're about a week away.
And I'm excited, too. I know Wayne is. We're all draft nerds, so we're all, like, waiting for Christmas Day to come, so kind of what it is, and then we're all going to be sad once it's over. Well, I guess a little. Okay, so I'm just going to shoot off right off the bat, Wayne, if you don't mind. I got a first question for you, Cecil. You know, mine's going to be Bronco-related, of course. Okay, first question. Should the Broncos move up to pick 3 or 4? And if so, which quarterback do they do that for?
Yeah, I think they move up to 3 or 4, and it's McCarthy or May. Now, this is where the lies, and April, the season of lies, comes in because you have the New England Patriots sitting there at 3. Now, back in January, I had heard from New England, and New England guys are talking now, which is weird because for 20 years of doing this, I never talked to New England guys. They would barely even say good morning unless I was with Jeff Legwald for some reason, because Jeff, of course, is Scout's best friend. But like New England guys are talking now. So in January, they said they want Jaden Daniels. If they don't get Jaden Daniels, they'll move back and they'll take Michael Penix. Well, Jaden Daniels is going to go number 2 to Washington. Adam Peters, who I've known since he worked for the Broncos, and I think the Commanders have the best young GM in the game with Adam Peters. They're smitten with Jaden Daniels. He's number 2. Caleb's number 1. We already know that. So 3 is there. And now in April, I've heard from Patriots guys, we're taking Drake May. Okay. But I've also heard they like JJ McCarthy. So when I was at the owners meetings a few weeks ago in Orlando, I saw Adam Schefter, who is my mentor. And I said, Adam, this is what I've heard from New England. Please find out the truth. Because if anyone's going to dig up on something, it is, of course, Adam Schefter. So we haven't heard anything yet. We're still seeing him work out JJ McCarthy, meeting with him twice or whatever the number is. Like, all right, but I think 3 is available. Now, does Gerard Mayo want Pat Surtain? Of course. Does Monty Ossenfort with the Arizona Cardinals want Pat Surtain? Of course. Do the Broncos want to trade Pat Surtain? Of course not. They do not whatsoever. If they have to, I believe they will. I also believe they do not want to whatsoever. And honestly, the math isn't there for giving up Surtain, even from a move from 12 to 3 or 12 to 4. If you're 12 to 1, yeah, it's going to take Surtain. Okay. If you're 12 to 2, yeah, perhaps it's going to take Pat Surtain, but 12 to 3, 12 to 4 includes a couple of first round picks and maybe a mid-round pick. It really isn't that expensive, even with the quarterback premium, as these teams, and Gerard Mayo specifically, I'll speak on the Patriots again, they can kind of take a year to see who's there, see what kind of team they've got, even though Robert Kraft at the owners meeting said, we got to find our franchise quarterback. Yeah, that's true, but they don't have the rush right now. Gerard Mayo is not in the window that Sean Payton is in. Payton had his year last year to see who's there, who fits, who do they like, who don't they like. and now he's building the team in his image. So now is the time for the Broncos to move up for their quarterback. I do believe it's JJ McCarthy first. I believe it's Drake May perhaps after that, although there's huge question marks about May. There's question marks about all these guys, but still, I look at it as a McCarthy-May sweepstakes. You've got the Minnesota Vikings there who absolutely love Drake May. I know that for a fact, and he fits with Kevin O'Connell. Josh McCown was a coach for him in high school, so all those things make sense if Drake May winds up. So I think you have New England line trying to get Minnesota to move, and New England line trying to get Denver to move. So it's almost like a staring contest. Who's going to blink first? Well, as Gary Kubiak would say, we're fixing to find out.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned New England because that's my team there. And the fact that they might trade out of 3 if Daniels goes 2 makes me want Daniels to go 2 because I want them to trade out of 3. My question, though, is like you mentioned Denver. Like you said, Denver wants to move up. Like you said, Minnesota wants to move up. Minnesota can offer 11 and 23 and maybe a 2025 first.
Mm-hmm.
What does Denver offer if they don't offer Surtain? Because I think Surtain and 12, like you said, it's a little bit overpaying,
Right?
But not what it would take to get there.
Yeah, and I will say this: when you look at what Minnesota can add, that's for a team that's in a window. Is New England in any sort of window? No, I mean, not at all. It's my same argument with Arizona. Even though I talked to Jonathan Gannon at the coaches' breakfast, and Gannon, I mean, a little bit surprising to me, but I guess maybe not. And it was my first time really interacting with Gannon, sitting down with breakfast for him for half an hour in Orlando. It was like he fully supports Kyler Murray in Arizona, right? So I was like, okay, that's a little odd. But if you're Denver, you can offer future firsts. Okay, you get everything now. If you're Minnesota, all right, well, they're not good now. New England's not good now. Arizona's got to figure out what is going to happen with their quarterback. They believe in him now. But Jonathan Gannon, that's not Kyler Murray's guy. That was Cliff Kingsbury's guy, and he's in Washington now. So, like, Gannon can have full support of Kyler Murray. Yeah, okay, but wouldn't you like to have more picks for the future? So, Minnesota, I think maybe there's a little bit of hubris from Vikings fans specifically. I don't think from the Vikings necessarily, but I think there's this ego of like, well, we got those 2 firsts. Yeah, big deal. Anyone's got 2 firsts, but do you want them stacked? It's like winning the lotto, right? Do you want your money now, but you get a bunch of taxes taken out, or do you want a little bit for 20 years? Well, it's not going to take 20 years to pay off the number 3 pick if Denver moves up to New England. But I believe that a team like New England is better suited to kind of see where they're at this year, take this kind of gap year, if you will, with Gerard Mayo there and kind of just get his feet wet, kind of see what's going on with the team, who's in, who's out, who's his guy, and then have those future picks. You get everything now. Okay, that's great now, but all you're doing is accelerating the way you got to pay these guys because those 5th-year options will come up before you know it. And it's about windows in the National Football League. The window for Mayo is big. You shorten that if you start stacking everything right now and saying like in 3 years, we're going to be this. No, take a year, see what you got, get your guy next year, and you'll have that extra first-round pick from the Broncos. So the Vikings with their 2 firsts, again, I think there's a little ego involved in that. The reality is teams like Arizona, teams like New England need multiple firsts over years so that they can set themselves up for years, not just 2024.
Okay, Cecil, if they can't get a deal done with Arizona or the Patriots, and if they have to stay at 12, do they still pick a quarterback or do they go with a different position?
It may make people upset, but Bo Nix fits Sean Payton. And I believe Bo Nix is a top 15 pick. And I'm not even really a Bo Nix fan. He's my number 4 quarterback this year. So he's behind Drake May. Jaden Daniels is my number 1. Caleb Williams is number 2. And I don't care about his pink purse. That makes no difference to me. I think Chicago screws him up more than Caleb Williams does, or his dad, or his team, his management team. You got a brand, and you haven't played it down in this league. That's just setting up for failure, in my opinion. But I look at it and I go, okay, Bo Nix is a timing and rhythm quarterback. Bo Nix is a guy that scouts are saying supercomputer. The word most commonly used is processor. When I talk to NFL scouts, GMs, and now even some NFL owners about Bo Nix, they all say supercomputer, processor, really smart. Okay, Josh Dobbs proved you can be an egghead and not be a real good quarterback. Well, Bo Nix isn't an aerospace engineer like Josh Dobbs, but he's a really smart quarterback who is a timing and rhythm-based passer. Now everyone says he's a screen guy. Okay, yeah, that was the offense. People say he wasn't good at Auburn. Well, Jaden Daniels wasn't good at Arizona State. Okay, can guys change? Can we change? Can we get better? Is every show that we do the exact same, or can we improve? The very first Audible that I did in 2006, before they were even called podcasts, I said welcome back because I'm a moron. Okay, I think I've probably gotten a little bit better since 2006, just a guess. But anyway, like I look at the Bo Nix thing and I go, okay, he had 150 micro passes. Micro passes are at or behind the line of scrimmage. Okay, 150 of them. He completed 145 of them. And it's actually kind of a tougher throw, even though it is a screen pass. And then I look at his numbers under pressure. And you just watch the film. You turn on the tape. Okay. People say I'm a numbers guy. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a film guy. And when you watch the film of Bo Nix, you know what happens when you blitz him? He kills you. He has almost 9 yards per attempt, 8.9 yards, 9 yards per attempt when under duress. Caleb Williams, not even 4 yards. So he's got over double the amount of yards per attempt when you blitz him. So I always look at plays under duress. Anybody can watch highlights. Ozzie Newsome told me years ago, don't YouTube scout. And so I have team access from an NFC team. It's not the Broncos, but there's a team that allows me to watch film through their system. And I get access to the college coaches tape. Well, in watching the college coaches tape, you see that Bo Nix will absolutely go for it. He'll absolutely try to kill you if you blitz him. So yes, he's a supercomputer. Yes, he throws a bunch of screen. Yes, he runs the damn offense. Don't you want a quarterback that does that? Oh my God, all he does is run what they tell him to do. Yes, but when he has to improvise, i.e. when he's under pressure, he attacks. And not in a Drake May wild sort of way. That's May's largest problem. We can get to that later. But Bo Nix fits, and Bo Nix at 12 is not overdrafting. I don't ever say anything bad about Mel Kiper because there's no me if there's no Mel Kiper. But Mel Kiper was on ESPN a month ago, and he was like, if you take Nix at 12, it's overdrafting him. And I firmly do not believe that whatsoever. And I'm not even a Nix fan. I'm just saying Bo Nix fits with Sean Payton. And the dirty secret, fellas, for everything in this league is it's all about fit. You can be a great player, and the college stuff is the college stuff. It's really almost a different game. It's about fit. How do you fit in the system? How do you fit in the scheme? And I think Bo Nix, in his metronomical kind of rhythm, fits perfectly with Sean Payton at 12.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Right.
12 is not really like you said, that not overdrafting. I do know that when you go to like a site like, let's say NFL mock draft database, right, which tracks all those Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and all the different drafts, right, and his average draft position is about 32, 33, so he's kind of like right on that fringe first round pick. Now obviously we don't know, anything can happen on draft night, but I'm curious to get your thoughts. Like, if the Broncos, what are the odds that instead of taking Nix at 12, if they really like Nix, moving into the 20s to get him? And if they don't get him, let's say they miss him because somebody jumps ahead of them and takes him.
Right.
Is it devastating to lose him? Like, is he really that much of a prospect that you can't get somebody next year or in round 2?
It's dependent on a couple of things. Where's JJ McCarthy in this conversation? Probably in the top 5. So we'll take him off. And then what do you think of Michael Penix? Now, I can't, and this is the problem. Like, I can't reveal everything I know. So I have to put things in a way that doesn't give away what teams have told me, because I talk to every team in the league now, even New England. I would just say Michael Penix would be a lower option for the Broncos. You know, I'm not telling you everything, but I'll tell you what I can. And I think Michael Penix, who can absolutely sling it. It's ugly as all get out. I mean, my God, the left-handed thing first and foremost. And then secondly, he does this sidearm thing, you can time his release with a sundial sometimes. But like, when it leaves Michael Penix's hand, it's beautiful, man. I could easily make the argument that Michael Penix is the best pure passer in this draft. Easily. And before the Michigan game, Michael Penix looked like a top 10 pick. After the Michigan game, he looked like a second round pick, but he's going to be around that same spot as Bo Nix. So, you know, that variance of like, what do the Broncos think of Michael Penix? If they're a little bit lower on Penix, then missing out on Nix would be a big deal. I don't really want to get on the Spencer Rattler train. I apologize to those that have. I think it's a huge mistake. And again, I could be totally wrong. It's a great thing about this draft and just kind of this business, right? I'm emotional and opinionated. So I'm going to do the research, and I promise the viewers and the listeners in Denver, like, no one's going to work harder than me. I go to the Senior Bowl, have for 18 years in a row. I go to the Shrine Bowl, have for 18 years in a row. Saw Spencer Rattler, talked to Spencer Rattler, saw him at the Combine. I go to owners meetings. I go to pro days. I'm everywhere. I don't think Spencer Rattler can play. So there's no sort of like mid-round, who's this year's Brock Purdy? Nobody. Nobody. Okay. It's not Joe Milton or Devin Leary, who are the only late round guys that I would take a chance on because they have absolute cannons for arms. But I look at the Knicks thing as like, he's kind of if you want to solve the quarterback thing right now, and I'm of the belief the Broncos want to solve the quarterback thing right now. Knicks is kind of your last bastion of hope. Maybe they change their mind on Michael Penix, or maybe they have a higher opinion than I've been told. But like, if Penix isn't your guy, the Knicks is your last hope. And moving back is interesting because 12 has to be something. 12 is no man's land. 12 isn't sexy. Who's going to fall at 12 that the Broncos wouldn't take, period? You know, and I said this on the air. I don't know. I talk a lot. I apologize. But I said, who's moving up to 12? If Brock Bowers falls to 12, Denver should take Brock Bowers. Ole Foshanu. I've heard he's falling, although I don't believe it. I think it's more of April lies. If Joe Alt falls to 12, and he's not, the Chargers are going to take him. But like, if someone like that, you would say Latu, right? If he falls to 12, okay, well, why isn't Denver taking him? They don't really have an A pass rusher. They got a bunch of B guys, nice guys. Drew Sanders going to play edge this year. Nice rusher, but he's like a B, C level guy. Baron Browning, I love him. He's like a B guy, right? Jonathan Cooper, he's like a B guy. You need a alpha pass rusher. Von Miller's not walking through that door. So if a pass rusher falls to 12, why isn't Denver taking him? If a tackle falls to 12, why isn't Denver taking him? If tight end Brock Bowers falls to 12, that's their number 2 need, by the way. That's their words, not mine. Their number 2 need is playmaking tight end. If Bowers falls to 12, why aren't they taking him? And you need someone that would be attractive enough to move up to 12. Again, the problem with where the Broncos are, and this is why they should have just benched Russell Wilson when they were 1-5, is that they won too many damn games. Sean Payton's too good of a coach. You can give him a guy that doesn't fit like Russell Wilson, and he can win a bunch of games. So the whole punt, next year, guys, just wait till next year. Next year for what? You got Quinn Ewers and Shadur Sanders, and Shadur needs to speed things up. I've said that to his coaches. Like, I love him. I think his pass placement is elite, but my God, he's a see it, throw it guy. You can't be a see it, throw guy in the NFL. You got to throw with anticipation, and Pat Shurmur is not going to teach him a damn thing. In fact, Shadur Sanders might take a step back this year because Pat Shurmur is a terrible, terrible coach. Ruined Drew Lock. Absolutely ruined him. So, like, okay, so next year, you got 6 potential first-round quarterbacks this year, real first-round quarterbacks. Next year, you got like 2. Okay, maybe somebody comes out of nowhere. Okay, 3, 4. I'll give you 4. That ain't 6, right? This is the year to make the move. Move up for the quarterback, get your quarterback, or take him at 12. If you move back, you do risk Bo Nix being scooped up by somebody else. And I think that's a little bit dangerous for a team that is so damn desperate at the quarterback position.
Yes, we are, Cecil. You basically answered my next question. My next question was going to be, what's the next position in need? You said tight end, which I totally agree with. But okay, so after that, what would be the next position in need?
Yeah, and let me stretch out the tight end thing there because I have a love story to tell you. It happens every year. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's awful. But every year I go on the road, I take what I call my all-star road trip, and I go, and anyone, and I think, Mark, you and I have talked about this, like, everybody go to the Senior Bowl. Hey, I want to do what you do. Go to the Senior Bowl. Start a podcast. You can do it, right? And the Senior Bowl is right there. Chris Mortensen, God rest his soul. God rest his soul. Chris Mortensen. When I was at training camp in 2008, standing next to Mort, it was my 2nd year of going to the Senior Bowl. It was my 4th year of being credentialed in the media to attend training camp. So I'm standing next to Mort, or standing next to Mike Shanahan, and Mort's telling me when he was a high school reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, somebody said, hey, you want to cover the NFL, right? Go to Mobile. That was in 1980. Well, here in 2024, it's still the same. You want to cover the NFL, get your ass to Mobile. So when I take my all-star road trip, I tend to fall in love. Now, I fall in love with film, but film's one thing. I got to see a guy in person. And when I saw Jared Wiley from TCU in person, I was like, this dude, first off, as I'm taking notes during practice, I'm just jotting down numbers. Okay. I'm not writing names. Everything's happening too fast. Right. So I'm sitting up at the top of the stands. I'm sitting there. I'm watching practice, got the binoculars. I'm looking over here, looking over there, watching players. I'm writing down just numbers and what they did, like shorthand stuff, basically. I'll assemble my reports. And then again, through team access, Sick brag, bro. Through the team access I have, I'll go back and watch Senior Bowl practice footage again, team footage. And that's when I'll complete my practice reports. So I was watching Jared Wiley, and I kept writing down this like wide receiver stuff. Like, oh, look at the wide receiver, this wide receiver, the wide receiver, wide receiver. He's not a wide receiver. He's a damn tight end, but he's 6'7", 6'6", I believe. And, can run like a gazelle. He can jump out of the flipping building. He's got incredible my ball mentality. When the ball's, that's his. It's up there. There's that pass. That's his. It's Jared Wiley. So I really, really love this game. Fell in love. Can't stop talking about him. I can't believe I've gone 20 minutes here. And now I'm just bringing up Jared Wiley. He's one of my favorite players in this class. Hands down, tight end. You need that stud. Brock Bowers is excellent, okay? And he's Gronk and he's Kelsey, whatever. He's everything, right? You can't miss with Brock Bowers. That's great. Jared Wiley might be your next guy. So what happens is I go on the All-Star road trip, and I make my notes and I make up my reports. People have asked me, why aren't your reports available to the public, right? I can buy draft guides from other draft experts because teams want my information. So I'm not going to release my information to the public when I have NFL teams that are curious about what I think on certain players. And I've only consulted. I've never been a scout. I always make that very clear. But when I compile my reports, and I'm done at the end of March. In April, I go, what is Matt Waldman saying? Because Matt Waldman and his rookie scouting portfolio is something everyone, if you want to be a smart draft fan and you want to know skill position players, you read everything that Matt Waldman does. So I check in with my buddy Matt. I've known Matt for 20 years, great friend, love him to death. So I check his work. I don't look at his work before then. I look at it when my work is done. And I say, what's he say about Jared Wiley? He loves him. Dane Brugler from The Athletic. It's the only reason I subscribe to The Athletic, and I apologize to all the great writers for The Athletic, but the only reason I subscribe to The Athletic is because I want Dane Brugler's beast, his draft report. He is the best in the game at the entire draft. Matt Waldman is the best, and not only do I think that, there's NFL owners that think that. Matt Waldman is the best at skill position players. Dane Brugler's best at everybody. And he studied under Gil Brandt. He studied under Cio Brocado. I knew Dane when he was 18. I was over at Chad Ryder's house when he lived in Denver, and Chad then worked for NFLDraftScout.com. Now, of course, works for NFL Network for a decade plus. So I was at Chad's house, and I saw this stack of hard drives, and I was like, what is that? This is like 2010 or something. He's like, oh, we got this young 17-year-old kid, Dane Brugler. He works for free, but we send him every college game from the TV broadcast. We send him these hard drives. That's how he gets paid. Dane did that for years, working under Chad Ryder, Rob Rang, NFLDraftScout.com. There's no question why Dane Brugler is the best draft analyst in the game. So, long-winded answer, but I say, what's Dane Brugler think of Jared Wiley? I saw Dane at the combine. We chatted up about JJ. Both of us had high second-round grades on JJ. So, but that's it. I don't pay attention. I don't ingest. I don't want anyone else's opinions kind of, coloring my opinions. So I do my work. I get my work done. And then I say, what are my friends doing? Dane Brugler has Jared Wiley as his number 4 tight end. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I thought I loved Jared Wiley. I mean, I love Jared Wiley, but Dane Brugler loves him. Matt Waldman loves him. And again, we could totally be wrong. He could be the biggest mid-round bust if there is a thing in the world. But we all love Jared Wiley. So if I'm the Denver Broncos, I look at a playmaker like that. I can talk about Dallin Holker in the 7th. I don't think he gets drafted much higher than that. Unfortunately, I like Holker, but he's not the talent that a Jared Wiley is, I had a 4th round grade on him. Guys, he's probably going to push up into the 3rd round. So playmaking tight end is at number 2. Number 3 is probably going back to pass rush. It depends on what they do with Garrett Bowles and the offensive line. Grinds my gears, I guess I should say. Because people will say, oh, the Broncos offensive line. Usually I can tell where somebody's at in their football intelligence based on what they say. And when I hear fans say, like, the offensive line sucks, well, that's categorically untrue. They're number 3 in run block win rate, and they're number 8 in pass block win rate. So yes, the Denver Broncos have a top 10 offensive line. You just had a damn quarterback that would run into pressure all the time. His name is Russell Wilson. So depending on what they do with Bowles, and I think they should extend Bowlesy, lower the number, give him a big bonus, and then, get his contract a couple of years longer. He's got a couple of years left of playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level. That would say tackle. I like Frank Crum from Wyoming, was at Wyoming's pro day, to see Easton Gibbs, inside linebacker, who the Broncos like. But Frank Crum's always been a standout. He was a standout at the combine, was this beautiful blonde hair flowing when he's running the 40-yard dash. That was fun to see. But Frank Crum would be one of those late round tackles. Again, even just to develop, even if you don't extend Garrett Bowles. So pass rush, they love late round corners. The Broncos are going to get a late round corner for sure. But it's quarterback first, tight end second. Then we get into the offensive line. Defensive line, they're kind of taken care of in free agency as much as you can take care of it in free agency. Inside linebacker, late round corner, and I still think they're going to do a wide receiver, especially with this Cortland Sutton stuff popping today, guys.
Well, I had to ask about something that you said there because I do what I call on social media reality education, right? So I try to help people understand the reality of the situations. And I know that one of the things that come up, you mentioned there's no Brock Purdy in this draft. People say there's no Tom Brady in this draft, right? And I always take the approach of Kenny Rogers. Every hand's a winner, every hand's a loser, right? I feel like every quarterback in this draft has the potential to be the greatest quarterback of all time. And every quarterback in this draft has the potential to be Jamarcus Russell. Right. Really, we don't know because even Brock Purdy, if you were to go 2 years ago and say, hey, what quarterback in round 5, 6, or 7 is going to throw for 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and win a conference championship, they would have said nobody. So we just don't know.
Wayne, I'll interrupt you super quick, Wayne, before you finish your question. 2 years ago, I was sitting with Brock Purdy for an hour at the Shrine game in Vegas. They have a players lounge where the media can hang out with the players. So I'm hanging out with Brock, and I loved him going into that week. And then I saw him, and I was like, oh, God, this is not good. He did not have a good week. So I'm talking to Brock, just, shooting the stuff with him. I don't know if I can cuss on the show, Mark. So just give me the thumbs up, thumbs down. Anyway, so I'm talking to Brock. I thought I was buying insurance from him. I thought, because he thought he was done. Brock Purdy told me as we sat for an hour and talked, this is it. It's over. And I'm just enjoying my last bit of football. He thought he was done. 2 years later, blankety blankers in the Super Bowl. So yes, anything can happen. But Wayne, I'll toss it back to you, my friend, and say, that's where fit comes in, because Brock Purdy certainly fits with Kyle Shanahan.
He does. And that's why I'm saying, like, when I talk to people, whether it's somebody like a Joe Milton, who's a little bit of a bigger name, or some of the guys that maybe we don't really know their names, they're not household names that are going to go in that 6th, 7th round, or maybe even be UDFAs, right? There's always the potential that you could get one of those guys in round 6 or 7. Now, I do agree with you that you don't want to chance that because the odds are against you,
right?
But that's why I don't like to say things like, there is no Brock Purdy in this draft, because I think there could be 6 Brock Purdys in this draft. We don't know.
Right. You don't know until you get there, until you see the fit. Devin Leary from Kentucky can absolutely sling it. I saw him at the Shrine Bowl, and the dude just jumps out of his hand. He just doesn't have any control. Joe Milton, no control. Absolute howitzer. He told me at the Senior Bowl he's been throwing 85 yards since he was in 9th grade. And now when I saw the passing drills at the Combine, it was funny / kind of sad, because Milton was really slowing it. I talked to McAllen Castles, who I think is a 7th round tight end you need to consider. He's a Y, he's a blocker and a receiver. But McAllen Castles told me Bazooka Joe, he doesn't like that nickname, by the way. He told me that at the Senior Bowl. But Bazooka Joe tries to throw everything like 100 miles an hour right at you, instead of throwing with touch. So at the Combine, it was funny / sad, because I saw Milton literally like aiming his throws. Now, everyone thinks, well, of course you're aiming your throws, but yeah, it's natural. It's a natural release. Milton was like slowing down his release so he could be like, make sure he was getting it to the receiver. And then when it was the go routes, he'd just go bam, and it's 80 yards in the air. It's a thing of beauty. So Milton is very smart, learned the system at Michigan, very smart, learned the system at Tennessee. Really good head on his shoulders, knows what he needs to work on. That's the type of player that I would take a chance on in these later rounds. But there's 2. I'm not a Spencer Rattler fan. Michael Pratt will put me to sleep if I watch him. He's okay. Again, it's all about fit. But to me, if you don't take a quarterback in those first 6, and I'll include Michael Penix in there because he can sling it. I don't know if he can stay healthy. I did ask him about his work ethic. I made sure to get that on the record. I had heard that, and I always am very careful with these sorts of things, because I'm not going to kill a guy in the pre-draft process, right? I talked about Dallin Holker. I was not impressed with Dallin Holker at the Shrine Bowl. I love the kid, really good heart, really good hair, but he didn't put on a show the way I saw Julius Thomas at the Shrine game in 2011 in Orlando. Jordan Cameron was there as well. The USC tight end, a basketball guy. So it's like, I've seen those kind of, who are this guy? Tight ends come into the Shrine game and really blow it up. Holker didn't do that. I didn't kill him in my reports because that's not my job. So when I had heard that Michael Penix had some work ethic problems at Indiana, they couldn't get him in the weight room, I made sure to ask him on the record. And I had the final question for him at the combine, and he gave me a great answer about his work ethic. And he's had 2 healthy seasons at Washington. So I include Michael Penix in that conversation, but give me the one of those 6. The rest of the guys, like, okay, Leary late, I guess. I don't like it, but whatever. And then Milton late, I guess, because on day 3, I want the freaks. That's it. That's all I want. I want the freak athlete. It's one of the reasons I have a problem with George Payton. And George Payton's always been good to me, so I appreciate him. He's been kind to me. I don't think he likes me, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But like when he got to day 3 and Tariq Woolen was there, and Woolen was a player I saw at the Senior Bowl. He didn't have any idea what he was doing, like none. UTSA, man. It's Texas San Antonio. He's not going to know what he's doing against the nation's best seniors. But he's 6'4", and he runs a 4.2 40. So instead of taking a 6'4" corner that runs a 4.2 40, George Payton took Delarian Turner-Yell, who can't play. Like, he's a nice special teams guy, but I get special teams guys that work out at the park here in my local town in Colorado, okay? Like, special teams guys are there. You don't need, I want freaks. Devin Leary is a freak because of his arm. Joe Milton is a freak because of his arm. So there you go. And by the way, fellas, this is a live program. So I'll tell you, I'm going to stay on longer than 30 minutes I told you because I'm having fun talking the draft. I do need to go shut off my crock pots. Give me like 2 minutes. You guys chat, and I'll be right back after I shut off my crock pot. It's so embarrassing, but I just got to tell you what's going on.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Some good information there. Mark, you're on mute, so some good information. Mark, how do you think this is going?
I'm glad that we're getting some valuable knowledge about draft things that I didn't really know about that Cecil's been telling us. So really appreciate that. I guess while he's sitting doing his crock pots, we can talk about some other football questions. What other topics are we going to talk about, Wayno?
Well, I mean, I'll do some self-promotion, some shameless self-plugs. I have 2 new articles out on Stadium Rant. One of them is about Russell Wilson and how he said that he is the guy who opened the door for guys like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. I don't know exactly what door, if it's for quarterbacks that are under 5'1", but I think that Doug Flutie opened that door. So there's not a single door that he could have possibly opened. All the doors he would have had to walk through.
And I totally agree. I think he, like I said off air, he really thinks highly of himself, and I don't even think he thought about what he was saying when he said this quote that he's like the person that opened these doors. I think he forgot about Doug Williams and many other quarterbacks that came before him. Cecil's back.
I'm back.
We'll get back to that after Cecil is done with us. Okay. I'm glad that you're going to stay with us, Cecil, because I got some more draft questions. You did answer a bunch of them already. These questions I had, you already answered them, because one of them was, who are the other positions and who are some players you've been eyeing? You said both of those. One of my questions was going to be, who's the one player you're banging the table for? And I think that's the tight end that you're talking about, correct?
Jared Wiley.
I guess so. My last question, yeah, Jared Wiley, that's the guy. My last question would be not draft related, because you know me, I love the Broncos, and I asked you about this last time, but I want to get it on air this time. And they're actually doing it now. What's your thoughts on the Broncos unveiling brand new uniforms?
I haven't seen them yet. That's the God's honest truth. If I had, I wouldn't have been able to tell you anyway. But
oh, come on, Steve.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be an exciting day. That's about all I can say on that. But I feel it was time. I am a little bit sad that it's not going to include a D logo, like the old school logo. I wanted the new horse and the old school D and combine it together. We're not going to see that. It's still going to be the horse's head that we're familiar with. But since those uniforms changed in 1997, I mean, it's been almost 30 years. It was time to make a change to something new. I believe you guys will be real happy. I know there's an alternate color for the helmets, and that's not any breaking news. That's already been reported before. So, you'll have that, not just the snow-capped helmets like they wore last year. The NFL's allowing a third color. So it'll be cool. It'll be interesting. But what I want most, Mark, is I want this team for you guys. I'm not even a Broncos fan. And I'm not a fan of anybody. I know people have said, like, you're a Steelers fan. Well, I grew up a Steelers fan because one, I'm the black sheep of my family. Two, we're really, really poor. I remember arguing with Derek Wolf about growing up poor because Wolf's like, I grew up poor. And I said, Derek, you ever stole corn to eat out of a neighbor's field for a semester in high school? Because I had to do that. And I'm not proud of it. I'm not obviously promoting stealing food, but like, no, I grew up poor. So when we'd go shopping when I was in high school, we'd go to the secondhand stores or the Salvation Army. And this is the 90s. Nobody's turning in their Broncos gear. So it was a bunch of 70s Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Lynn Swann stuff that I would get like a Steelers jersey for like a quarter. And at the time in the 90s, the Steelers were like Pittsburgh, CU campus, Pittsburgh campus, right? Because it was Deion Figures and the receiver Charles Johnson and Joel Steed and Chad Brown. Like the Steelers had all CU guys. And CU, to me, especially back in the day, this is why I love Alfred Williams, one of my dear friends, Mike Pritchard, one of my dear friends. Oh my God, love Pritch. That's why those guys that won it all in the 90 championship, those guys were my heroes. We talked more in junior high and high school about the CU Buffs of the 90s than we did the Broncos because the Buffs were everything. So I loved the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers got all these CU Buffs, and I had a bunch of 25-cent Terry Bradshaw jerseys or whatever. So yeah, I was a Steelers fan, but as an analyst, I don't think you can be a fan, honestly. And maybe you can, and I can be totally wrong, but I don't want to be influenced anyway by like my heart. A lot of the times I don't like what the Steelers do. A lot of the times I wasn't really on board with the Kenny Pickett pick. Like it was okay. I definitely don't like this Russell Wilson thing. Justin Fields is interesting. I do like that. But so I try to put my fandom to the side. That's just me. Again, I just have a different approach to it. But I want Broncos country and Broncos fans because my entire family are Broncos fans. Like that's why I tell you guys, like, you're my family. You're my family because all you guys are my family. My entire family, Broncos crazy. We growing up the country, obviously not making a bunch of money. You don't ever get a day off. Okay. It's one of the tips I've told you about, Mark, in doing this is like grind. Don't ever stop grinding because I see so many people that get in the industry and they're like, what? You mean podcasts are work? Yeah. You know why? Because you're entertaining, you're performing to people. And yeah, once I'm done with the show, you know what I'm going to do? And drink some more Mountain Dew and try to chill out a little bit because I will have some effort expanded through this. So I say this to everyone, like grind. And in the country, that's all you do is grind. Cows got to get fed, even if they're out to pasture, you got to go check on them, got to ride herd. And so we would only stop working. I didn't have any family vacations, obviously couldn't afford anything, but so I don't have any, we went to Disneyland when I was 6. No, we went to work. But you know what happened on Sundays? All of us would stop, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, my family. We would stop working on the ranch. We would go watch the Broncos, and then we'd go back to work. So the only vacation I had growing up in the country, working my ass off, poor as poor can be, the only, for lack of a better term, like fun that I had was football. My outpost was football. My family's outpost was football. Nothing but diehard Broncos fans. What I want when you see that New Jersey on the 22nd, and from what I know, you will be very impressed. I want a draft, JJ McCarthy moving up, Jaden Daniels, bold move, something like I want a flipping move that gets this team excited about Sean Payton's quarterback. Because at the end of the day, okay, I've got Nix rated higher than JJ McCarthy. McCarthy will go well before Bo Nix. Bo Nix might be in the 30s, as you're mentioning with NFL Mock Draft Database. He might be a borderline first-round pick. JJ McCarthy will go in the top 5 if we're listening to recent rumors and rumblings and reports. I just want Sean Payton's guy. This team is a lot more fun when they're great, and this city is a lot more fun when the Broncos are great. It's Broncos country, man. That's all it is. And the Nuggets are great, and I still can't believe they won an NBA final. The Abs are fantastic. Everything's great, but the Broncos run everything in the Mile High City. And when they're great, it's a joy to be around. Sometimes that locker room is not real fun to be in. Sometimes Donald Stevenson is looking for you to kick your ass. But I don't know why. I had Broncos PR tell me one time they had to tell Donald I wasn't there because he was legit going to kick my ass. And I don't even know why. I like Donald. We used to talk about barbecue. And then I must have said something on the radio or something where it's like, Donald Stevenson sucks. And then he wanted to kick my ass in the locker room. But anyway, like being around that team when they won Super Bowl 50, I mean, I want those sorts of memories back. I want you guys in Broncos country to be happy again. I want that jersey to fly off the flipping shelves. I want NFLshop.com. I want it to be sold out. I want JJ McCarthy Broncos jersey to be the #1 selling jersey in the country, man. I want everyone rocking Broncos gear. I want to see that orange and blue. And I just kind of want to soak it up, man. I want to be there. I want to give the best information that I can. You know, glory to the players, glory to the game. We don't have what we do on the air, all of us. We don't have any of this if we don't have that game. And so, yes, it is a distraction. That's something that I've wrestled with, you know, like personally. Like, yeah, sports are a distraction. We got shit we need to be distracted from. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So, yes, as part of the circus, given bread and circus, bread and games, you know, guess what? The NFL is pretty damn good and pretty fun. And it's better when the Broncos are better.
One of the marks.
I would totally agree.
Didn't have any
Go ahead,
more
Leno.
draft questions, and I did have 2 questions left for you. If you don't have time for both of them, that's fine. One of them is a fantasy football overview question, and one of them is a comic book question. So I didn't know if you had time
Take
for
them both,
both.
Wayne.
Okay. Well, let's start with fantasy football because it's an easy segue from regular football to fantasy football. And my question is this: there's people all over that, you know, say, hey, you know, join our website. You know, we can give you advice on how to help in fantasy football. I'm not going to lie to you. I've played fantasy football for the last 7 years, and I finished dead last in every league I've ever played in. And I'm a stat nerd. Like, I'm a jumbo stat nerd. I go through how do they do in splits? How do they do in different matchups? How do they do against different coaches?
Yes, Cecil.
No matter who I play, it doesn't matter. I could play Megatron against me at corner, and he would have 0 catches. Not because I'm a good corner, but just because I played him in my starting lineup.
Yeah, that happens. And I will say this from a fantasy perspective, and having worked for footballguys.com since 2005, I've seen the landscape change. It used to be, I remember being on the air with Dave Logan in probably around 2005 and 2006 is the 2 years I was on KOA. I was on 760 The Zone, their sister station, in 2003 and 2004 with Mark Schlereth. And then 0506, I was on with Scott Hastings and Dave Logan. And I remember telling Dave Logan about targets. And he was like, what is that? And I was like, it's the number of times you're thrown at. So targets used to be like my ace in the hole. That's the guy that knows how many times someone's been thrown at. Like, now information and stats are everywhere. Everyone has it. And from a business perspective, I will say what makes Football Guys unique is that we're showing you the math and what we do. There's no like secret formula for projections. Like, we're telling you this is what he's done against this player, against this route, and these combinations. Like, we show you the math and what we do. We have humility in what we present you. And then it comes back to, from a business standpoint, again, personality. I've said it about YouTube or any sort of show. People are subscribing because of your personality. The information and opinions are everywhere. Okay. Everyone's got them. Everyone's got them. But what they come back to is personality. So you need to have proper information, good opinions as good as you can, although those will vary. And then you need to have personality. And sound like Jules from Pulp Fiction. Like, personality goes a long way for me. But having that in the fantasy football space, it's like, I am very proud of working for a company that is very forward. I write a newsletter that goes out to, 750,000 people every day from the draft until the Super Bowl. The Football Guys newsletter, which is free, by the way, I write that every day, and it goes out to 750,000 people. And there you go. Like, it's something that I take a lot of weight with, because I know that I have to give you the best information. I got 750,000 people reading what I'm writing. I got to make sure it's good. So I want to research, I want to study, I want to show you guys the math. For all of us that do projections of Football Guys, like, I think it's great. We also give you a bunch of different opinions on things. So, how do you stand out in the fantasy space? Consistency, personality, and just being good. At the end of the day, you have to be good. It's a performance-based business. I mean, it's why I'm so upset with Cortland Sutton today, because Sutton wants a new contract and he doesn't deserve one. And I don't normally say that. And I like Court a lot. I like him a lot. But when you come to the, Tom Pelissero reporting, it's agent fed information. You can easily tell when agent fed information happens. He's looking for a new contract. Why? He's overpaid as it comes, right? So why is he looking for a new contract? Oh, because he doesn't want to be here. All right. No, just be humble, get to work. And in the fantasy space, I don't know if I answered your question or not, Wayne, but like in the fantasy space, I think that's what it takes to stand out. And it's why Football Guys, the brand of Football Guys, means so much in fantasy circles, because we've been there since the late 90s. I remember getting the Football Guys newsletter, and I remember the day Football Guys went subscription, and it was in 2002. And I was like, I'm never paying for information. And then I went like a week without the Football Guys newsletter, and I was like, I got to pay for this information. So, and now I write it, and I've written it, I think, since 2007. I've written the newsletter. So, again, come to Football Guys, Wayne, send me your email. I'll get you a free subscription.
Okay. I appreciate that. And then my last question was comic book related, because I saw you do have the comic book page. It looks like you're a writer, artist, right? Co-owner of this comic book. And so you may know the answer to this question. If you do, great. If you don't,
Sure.
I'll just take your best guess,
Okay.
which is this. Obviously, you're a smaller kind of unlabeled, right? It's not DC. It's not Marvel. It's not one of these big things.
It's crowdfunded. It's independent.
And I wanted to ask you about the success of Spawn, because they came out with Image Comics, which was not Marvel, was not DC. And the first issue of Spawn sold 1.7 million copies. And I'm curious what perfect storm led to that happening.
Yeah, it was the rock stars that Todd McFarlane, who is my favorite artist, by the way. There's his art book right there behind me. He signed it on the inside cover. It said, Cecil, you're awesome. When I met Todd at TradeSmart in Littleton in 2013. I love Todd. Actually, Dan Kemp, the colorist of Spawn from back in the 90s, is my colorist for Sue Immortal, which is coming out this year. So I'm very, very happy about that. He also did the cover of Korn, Follow the Leader, which McFarlane drew, and then Dan colored. So the success was that people were kind of looking and following these artists. Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Rob Liefeld, creator of Deadpool, of course, like all of these guys, Jim Valentino, Will Portatio, Eric Larson. Those are the 7 founders with Todd McFarlane, the 7 founders of Image Comics. And can you tell I watch the Image Revolution about once a month? Everyone watch it. It's I don't know if it's free. Check out Voodoo or whatever. Image Revolution. But those guys, and when I was growing up in the 90s, I actually have my rejection letter from Image right here. I did a art contest that J. Scott Campbell won. And if you're a comics nerd, 1, J. Scott lives here in Denver, and 2, J. Scott Campbell is excellent. But in 1993, when I was a teenager, tried out for that art contest. I didn't win. J. Scott Campbell won, but I wanted to be there, and I stopped. Me and my best friend, we had a 8-page anthology that was going to be in Legend Comics, Lords number 2. Lords number 1 had just come out. They're a Fort Collins company. They went out of business before Lords number 2 came out. And so my best friend and I, when we're teenagers, 20, I think we were 20. So just out of teenagers, and we're like, we're going to make it. And then that company went out of business, and we're like, it's over. I should have never, ever, ever given up. And now in making it in the media for NFL, I had never given up. I don't give up today. I'm still grinding today, 20 years in. Why? Because that's how you do it. And so when I had the opportunity to self-publish titles, because now you had Image form the company, and what happened was, like, Todd McFarlane created Venom. He doesn't get a dime from Venom. Rob Liefeld created Deadpool. He doesn't get a dime from Deadpool. The guys that created Superman, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, they got like 20 grand a year, and they had to fight for it in the 70s to get that. And they died broke, basically, both of them. I mean, they did not treat creators very well at all, Marvel or DC. Oh, you created Batman. I mean, how long did Bill Finger go without being credited as the creator of Batman? Might even been more of a creator than Bob Kane was. And I say that with all due respect. But it's like, so they broke off. They've created Image. One of my dear friends, Gabe El Taib, who's a big Broncos fan, by the way, Mark. So Gabe is a colorist. He used to work for DC. He used to work on Superman. And then he quit, and he did the Isom book with Eric July. Isom raised $4 million on their issue number 1. Isom number 2 raised almost $3 million. Their breakoff series, Yara, went over $1 million in, I think it was 48 hours. So the independent comic book space is very strong, and that's why I'm excited to be in that. I also have a writing partner, Mark Torgrove, shout out Mark. Everyone go see Garfield. His Garfield movie comes out in May. So go see Garfield, because here's how that works. And Mark is so generous and so gracious, and such a great mind. He's written with Ryan Reynolds and he's written with David Letterman and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so his Garfield movie comes out. So when you sit down with movie execs, and I hope to one day with my properties, they say, hey, that Garfield movie is really good. What else you got? Well, then Mark can do this. And he can say, here's one of our smoke and gun comics called The Familiars. And it's basically Harry Potter meets Fox and the Hound. So that's how you do it. So I've got all these stories. I got 8 different IPs. Actually, I have more ideas, but I'm running out of time. So I've created 8 IPs. I've got 6 of them printed. Here's Ghost Gun right there. Beautiful, wonderful cover. Zach Conley did that one. So, got a bunch of different ideas. Sue Immortal is the one I'm working on right now. This is the one Dan Kemp is coloring, the Spawn colorist. So I've got a bunch of different ideas. They're not all superhero ideas, but they're movie ideas in addition to comic book ideas. And I can create the stories. I can crowdfund them. Now, I haven't done the $4 million like Isom, but I've also only done H-page ash cans for this last year. This year, all of 2024 is going to be an 80-page trade paperback, full color of Sue Immortal. It's going to take the whole year to get done. We're actually on issue 2 of 4 right now. So those will be crowdfunded and that'll be available to everyone. And then if that becomes a movie, awesome. Guess what I'm doing? I'm writing movies. But the key is, and the point is, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't let anyone tell you what to do. I had family members. I don't like telling this story, but I just got to tell the truth. I had family members in the 90s be like, you can't make money doing comic books, when McFarlane bought the Barry Bonds baseball for like $3 million, like when Stephen Platt, who worked under Rob Liefeld, was making $50,000 a month in 1993. Like, you can't make any money. Yeah, you can. And now with the independent comic scene, you can set your own way. And the best boss I've ever had is me. My most critical boss I've ever had is me. And that's podcasting, that's NFL, that's comic books, whatever. So I urge everyone out there, whatever your dream is. I'm a country kid, maybe not a kid so much anymore, gray hair coming through, but like, I'm a country kid who went to 1 year of community college and didn't go to class. Okay. I'm a kid who I should stop being kid. I'm an old man who gets to hang out with NFL owners and has Peyton Manning's phone number and like, just this dream scenario, right? Dream life. And it doesn't mean I don't have struggles. It doesn't mean that, I don't fight like everyone else fights through the daily struggles. It just means I was able to do this from nothing, from stealing corn out of my neighbor's field to eat, to this. And again, I'm not a millionaire. I haven't sold any of my movie ideas. I hope I do. Everyone go see Garfield. But my point is, like, whether I hit or miss, I took a fucking swing. And that's the point of life. And I'm sorry for cussing, but I want to emphasize this for everyone, because we all have dreams. We all want to do stuff. We all need those distractions. So whatever you're doing, I don't care how ridiculous it sounds to your friends. One of my best motivators, because I love when people tell me I can't do something. Tell me I can't do it, and I'm going to fucking do it, and I'm going to love it. My boss at the machine shop, Bob, hi, Bob, and he's a Chiefs fan, so that says a lot. Anyway, I remember Bob telling me one time, like, when I was trying to be on the radio, he's like, you're not going to be on the radio. Get your ass to work. And just the fact of him like being like, you're not going to do that. I was like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to shove it in your face, Bob. So like, yeah, okay, go for it. Don't let anyone tell you what you can't do. Do it the right way. Do what Adam Schefter told me. Be gracious with everyone. Be kind to everyone. If you're on Twitter and you're talking shit to people, you're dumb. Okay. That's just dumb. And it doesn't get you anywhere. I'll tell a story of Sean Zobel. Sean Zobel, I think, is a coach now somewhere in Minnesota, like a high school coach. But back in the day when he was like 17, about the same age as Dane Brugler, he might be a little bit older than Dane Brugler, but he was like talking shit about Mel Kiper and I'm better than Mel Kiper. I'm the best, whatever. And he'd come to the Senior Bowl. He was so young, his dad had to bring him. And I didn't mind Sean. I mean, I tried to guide Sean a little bit, but I told him, I was like, dude, stop talking shit. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that in this business. Are there some people in the media that I think don't know their head from their ass? Yes. Am I going to tell you who those people are? No. Why? It doesn't. How do I win? Do I win Do I win, run around talking shit about everybody? No, I win by being kind, working hard, and just knowing that others are going to get where they get, and I'm going to get where I get. I'm going to control my craft, my life. Energy flows where attention goes, and this is where I'm going. So Sean Zobel, nobody even knows who he is anymore. And again, I don't mind Sean. Chad Ryder from NFL Network tried to guide Sean as well. But the reason is everything fell apart because he's making these draft proclamations and I'm better than Mel Kiper and Mel Kiper doesn't know shit. Like, okay, well, who are you? Right? I still turn on my TV and I see Mel Kiper every year. Where's he at? He's nowhere. Why? Because he took that wrong approach. Adam Schefter told me, we're sitting at KOA. He goes, you see that guy behind the glass? I said, yeah. The guy's getting us coffee and stuff. I said, yeah. And he goes, be nice to him because one day he's going to run this station. And when you go along this journey and you're going to see a bunch of people fall off and you're going to see a bunch of people come up. I showed Matt Miller around his first Senior Bowl. Matt will never forget it. He always gives me credit. And now I turn on my TV and I see Matt Miller on ESPN as their number 2 draft analyst behind Mel Kiper. And I love Matt. I love him dearly. I've seen him grind. I've seen him broke. I've seen him down, out, stressed. Eric Galco, who runs the Shrine Bowl, okay, who runs the scouting in the XFL. Eric Galco, I've seen him where he's working for free, right? Oh my God, your stuff's in Sporting News. What are they paying you? Nothing. Oh shit. But he worked his ass off and he got places, right? So the answer is work and get places. And with that, fellas, I got to run.
Nice. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. It was really great to have you. The name is Cecil Lammey, denversports.com, footballguys.com, smokingcomics.com. I loved having you on the show. It was fantastic.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Cecil. It was a pleasure.
Peace.
All right. So with that, Mark, what a great show we had today. Great guest, lots of great information. I'm actually going to fix that. There we go. And I do appreciate you finding Cecil and having him come on the show. It was really great to have him.
Yeah, man. Cecil is one of my favorite guys in the Denver sports. I just love that he spits from the, spits from the gun. He shoots from the gun, and he tells it like it is. He said, he gave us a lot of good information tonight. I hope everybody will listen and hear all the things he said because it's true knowledge, man. And I learned a lot tonight, Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good to have him. I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. Make sure you are following us. I'm stealing your thunder here and closing it out for you, Mark. But make sure you are checking us out on social media at NFL Experts Pod. We appreciate you. If you want to come on the show and you're somebody who writes blogs or is invested, we'd love to have you.
Yes, we would love that. We love interacting with everybody that's a nerd in NFL like we are. So welcome. Anybody's welcome to come chat it up with us.
Well, party on, Mark.
Party on, Wayne.